couldn't give a flying about the backlash I received. Does all the quotas, and how much trouble can you get in it you break them for the deer? Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. I hope you're well, I hope you're staying safe, and I hope you're not too bored in what is becoming very long and very tedious quarantine. Hope you enjoy my recent videos, and for those of you that haven't watched my videos before, do go and look at the stalking ones, do go and check out the deer management, just get a bit of understanding of why we take some of the animals we take, and basically the way that the countryside management works comes to deer stalking especially, which I've been focusing on recently. Obviously that won't be the whole content of this channel. I'm hoping when quarantine is over, we'll be able to get out and do some more exciting and stimulating stuff, but obviously I can only do what I'm limited to do in quarantine, which is staying on within location sort of my own house, if you like, and doing my own local management. Looking forward to getting out with some other people and going to do some various different types of stalking, shooting, hunting around the country and hopefully around the world. Got some muntjac lined up in Essex. As soon as it's over, I've been asked to go and shoot some muntjac for somebody because they are causing havoc with their trees, and they watched my video and they asked me to come and shoot the muntjac for them. So looking forward to that. Not shot a muntjac before, so we will crack on. Anyway, I've been answering some of your questions today as well. You've been saying to me, I sent out a story on Instagram sending in your questions. I did encourage anyone who doesn't agree with shooting and hunting to ask me questions as well, because I'm more than happy to answer those questions, so I will be doing so. People that have said hate, which there has been a lot of, I'm just not going to answer it. It completely makes no sense, and I literally do not listen to it. In fact, it actually spurs me on to do what you're saying you don't agree with even more. So I will be answering the questions which are sensible, whether from antiques or not, but also from people who enjoy hunting, and I'll then be going through my kit that I use for an average store. Very lucky enough to have some brilliant couple of guys that sent me some awesome bits of gear, which I'm really excited to show you as well, and hopefully you can get over to their website and give them a bit of a support. But I'll start off with answering some questions. First question is from James Des3. Pretty straightforward, is how did I get into hunting? Well, I got into hunting straight up for pheasant shooting. Pheasant shooting was the first port of call for me, being brought up around sort of, pheasant shooting. All my family has done it, all my sort of friends. That was the first port of call. About the age of 7, I shot my first gun, which was the 410, and then I shot my first pigeon with the 410 when I was about 7 or 8. And then I had a whole season standing on a shoot with an unloaded gun, just going through the motions. And it's a really great way of, if you're looking to get your young children into shooting, just giving them an unloaded 410 with nothing in the barrel, just hammerlock, sort of a hammerlock double barrel, and just getting them going through the process of just pulling both barrels empty, but showing safety with a gun. I was always told if I showed an unsafe barrel, so they were pointed or pointed at someone, even though they were unloaded, so there was no risk of anything happening. At a young age, if I was shown an unsafe gun, then I'd have to do another season with an unloaded gun, which was obviously a really good inspiration for me to be safe. And ever since, it's drilled into me, nail on how your safety should be. So that's a great way to get kids into it, and that's how I got into it. And then it's just sort of spurred on from there. Next question. Is from Josh Win 22. Do you use different types of ammunition or caliber for different animals? Now, Josh, the answer to your question is yes, I do, obviously. Depending on what you're talking about. We're talking about stalking. With roe deer, I tend to use a 243, which I'll show you in a minute. That's my setup, my 243. I've had that literally since I was about 15, that gun, and it's not the bee's knees, don't be wrong, but for me, I'm not a snob when it comes to rifles or scopes or at this moment in time. If it gets the job done, and it shoots straight, that's all that matters to me. So yeah, I do. For the 243 for roe deer, obviously a 308 for the bigger deer. I use your reds, your fallows, I use a 308. And then for foxes, probably use a 243 as well. My 243 is pretty universal. Shoots straight for a long distance, so that's what I tend to use. And then when it comes to shotguns, I'll use a 12 bore. Pretty much across the board. I've always used a 12 bore since I was about sort of 13, 14, and that's what it does the job for me. And this is a question from Aaron Kennedy 4. What do you enjoy shooting more, partridge, grouse, or pheasant? I've only had the privilege of shooting grouse once, so I did love it, don't get me wrong. I was told it was very, very difficult. We went up to the Yorkshire Dales with a pretty good stiff wind behind them. And I don't know what it was, but I didn't find it as difficult as everybody else. Whether I was lucky or just it was one of those days, but I had a purple patch and didn't really seem to miss much. Grouse, I loved. I'd love to do it any chance I get. But for me, it's German pheasant. German pheasant you can't beat. Just awesome high cock bird. I don't think you can beat it when it comes to driven shooting. That's probably my creme de la creme in terms of shotgun shooting. Yeah. Trophies. This is from Annie Antonia. Trophies are not why we hunt, of course. That is very important. But what do you have any trophies that I've taken that I'm particularly proud of? The trouble is when you start getting proud of trophies, Annie. The answer to that is no, I don't, because as soon as you start getting proud of trophies, then that's when you become a trophy hunter. You start to look for animals based on their trophies. And I will very firmly say, no matter what the tabloids seem to think, I am not a trophy hunter, never will be. I shoot purely for conservation purposes and meat purposes, and tie those two things, you can normally get it pretty down. So no, there's not really a trophy I'd pick out. Obviously, I've got the various. When I shoot a roebuck, I don't like to waste the head. I think that no matter what the size of the roebuck is, they should all be given the same. I've got a few here to show you, but they should all be given the same sort of respect. So it's not a huge one, a little cull one. You know, he was quite an old buck, and it wasn't going to get much better than that. He's already been on the turn, so it's a good one to take. If you're looking at purely for a trophy off this is a slightly bigger one. But again, it was a good animal to take because he didn't look too well on inspection. But it was obviously a nice head. So yeah, these are the sort of things you've been talking about. But like I said, I'm not proud of a trophy because, you know, as soon as you start becoming proud of a trophy, that's when you start shooting the animals for trophies, which is obviously it's obviously a switch stag, pretty horrible thing. But or murder stag, as a lot of people don't understand. The reason they're called murder stags is straight up because when they're coming through when they're fighting and they fight with the big stags, they have no tines. So instead of locking, they just slip straight through and stab into the other stag, and that's why they're called murder stags. But I know them as switch stags. So no, I do not have any trophies that I'm particularly proud of. This is from Faye Get Low. I'm trying to think if that's some sort of joke. They're trying to make me say something, but I don't think it is. What do you think about American-style duck hunting / goose hunting? Would you like to try it? To be honest with you, Faye, it doesn't really appeal to me. Camoing up and 20-shot, 8-shot repeaters. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say no if you invited me to try it, but I wouldn't go out of my way. I'm sure it's a great type of hunting, but I much prefer, you know, wildfowling in the UK and flighting a duck pond in a natural way, as opposed to sort of decoying them in. And I don't really think it's as natural as sort of flighting them in, building your own flight pond, digging your own pond, and getting the environment really great for the duck, so they want to be there, as opposed to actually bringing them in by forcing them with decoys. I think it's much better to build your own natural pond and do it the proper way, in my opinion. Obviously people disagree with me, but that's my opinion, so that's that. Going Shooting has sent me a message saying, what haven't you hunted what haven't you hunted that you want to next, and why? Sorry, what haven't you hunted that you want to hunt, and why? I think probably the next thing I'd love to hunt is boar. I've never shot a boar. I'd love to do driven boar. That's my next goal to be ticked off. Pigs. I've stuck pigs in New Zealand. Pretty crazy experience. No, I'd love to shoot driven boar. That's my next goal. I'm going to read out one of these because they're pointless. I'm name and shame. Ex Louisa Grace. Stop doing it, you evil Tory. What gives you the right to kill them? I can tell you're a Tory, thumbs down. I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand what my political orientation has anything to do with anything I'm doing. I've never once indicated which way I vote, and I don't frankly think it really matters, so please stop using that terminology. As for what gives you the right to kill them, sadly, Louisa, being brutally honest with you, I'm going to answer a couple of antis here because they need it stimulates conversation. We as human beings have taken away the vast majority of natural predators. I'm going to use deer in the UK as an example. There used to be wolves here, there used to be bears here, there used to be lynx here. We've hunted them all out hundreds of years, so now deer have no natural predators. So we as humans, because we have the responsibility of taking away the natural predators, now have to act as the natural predators and manage the deer populations correctly. And it goes to show that it goes the same in a lot of places where they're managing for conservation purposes. If an animal gets overpopulated or they start to decline, then simply you need to manage the population so you've got the most healthy animals going through the line if possible. And as soon as because that's basically how you ensure the health of the population, and therefore the constructive movement forwards of the species. So that's what gives me the right to kill them. And when you're doing land and forestry management as well, they will damage the trees mercilessly. So if they get down to an appropriate number, they don't have to be wiped out, which I'm sure you'd love to believe that we do, but honestly, any good hunter cares for the animal as much as the next person, because firstly, without the animals being there and without you effectively looking after them, there wouldn't be anything to hunt, so that would be rubbish. Secondly, they are a very important part of the ecosystem and they need to be managed and conserved in an appropriate way. And despite a lot of people saying hunting is the most effective way to do that in every part of the world, and I will firmly stand behind that because that's what I believe, and I've seen it in practice in all parts of the world. So thank you for that message, Louisa Grace, but unfortunately you're wrong. Here we are, this is a good question. Una McDermott, why did you decide to continue posting about the killing of animals after the backlash you received? Well, frankly, I couldn't give a flying about the backlash I received. It was complete, didn't really bother me at all. You know, people sending me all these sort of horrible messages saying this, and this, you kill for this, and this, you're a murderer. Well, I'm not, because murder, again, is the killing of a human being. So sadly, you're wrong, unfortunately. But the reason I continue to post is because I firmly believe in the act of hunting. It's a very important part of human ethos. You know, we've done it for hundreds and thousands of years for meat, for management purposes, and now it's more important than ever. You know, when you're going down the supermarket and you're sweeping the supermarket shelf full of all the battery farm chickens, I actually don't enjoy any. Do you enjoy eating those sort of chickens? They taste really chemically pumped for rubbish. Much prefer to go and harvest the local red hind and just frankly, that's the best meat you can get going. It's got the highest iron content of any meat in the world. And the saturated fat levels are way through the floor, so you've got the best chance to just basically, it's the best healthy meat you can get. So that's the reason I post, because I like hunting, and I think it should be encouraged and supported around the world, because it's not just the killing of an animal, it's so much more social, conservation. It's an activity that anyone can get out in the countryside to do. It doesn't require thousands and millions of pounds like everybody thinks. It's much more enjoyable than a lot of people think, for all the right reasons, not just the killing of the animal. Lily Chandler has asked, how do you deal with the negativity that people send around hunting? That's a good question, Lily. The way I deal with it is I just ignore it. I mean, a lot of the time I reply just laughing, because it's so frankly ridiculous. People just don't do this in real life. People just do not say to you in real life these things. They hide behind the keyboards, and it is just a keyboard warrior. They hide behind the keyboards. When they see me in person, they potentially wouldn't say it. They say they feel protected through their phones, and they send just because you've got the blue tick or whatever. A lot of people argue that's the reason you put yourself in the limelight, so you've got to expect it, which is what I did. When I went into the show, I gave myself best case scenario and a worst case scenario. And the worst case scenario was, people come out with lots of thousands of death threats. I didn't care, got over it and moved on. So that's the way I deal with it. Aaron Kennedy 4 has asked, when you were young, you came to Longcroft in Scotland and shot rabbits with a keeper. No, I didn't. The first time I went to Scotland was last November in my life. I've never been to Scotland before that, so sorry mate, that's not. I don't think I did anyway. Seb Brownhill has asked, what is your preferred method, shotgun or rifle? Well, it's a difficult question to ask. If you were asking what I prefer to use, what I prefer to shoot in terms of pheasant shooting or deer stalking, or hunting with rifles, I think there's more opportunity, variety. It's a lot more affordable to shoot with a rifle, because pheasant shooting, partridge shooting, grouse shooting, and certainly in this country, is extremely expensive. You can shoot pigeons, you can shoot, all sorts of vermin, but and down here we don't get vast numbers of pigeons, so I've never really shot pigeons in great numbers, so I think it's gonna have to be a rifle. You can shoot 6 species of deer here for relatively affordable numbers, and then obviously other species around the world. A Bacon 97 has asked a very good question. She's asked, or he, I'm sorry, I can't see your picture there. How do you know you won't overhunt something? Now that's a good question. The reason I know I won't overhunt anything when I'm in control of it and I'm doing the hunting and I'm doing the management is because I keep a very close eye on what I'm doing. You don't just wander into an area and blast everything you see. You shoot the deer you want to shoot. So this time of year I'm shooting young bucks, I'm shooting cull bucks, I'm shooting stuff that doesn't look great. I saw a comment on the Field Sports channel the other day, and it's a guy said, it's not a great advert for shooting, Mr. Williams, that you shot a buck in velvet. And my response to you, mate, is unfortunately it really doesn't matter whether the buck's in velvet or not, because I understand what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. I can tell that buck's not going to be a very good buck growing into the year, so I know it's going to be a young buck and it's one I want to take. Doesn't matter if it's in velvet or not. And you're clearly shooting your animals for their heads, but he's clearly shooting his animals for heads, because all he seems to care about is when they've cleaned their antlers off. And like I said, I do not care about the heads. I shoot them for meat, I shoot them for cull purposes, and I shoot them for management purposes. So whether it has velvet on or not, it does not concern me whatsoever. It purely matters on the age, the condition, and whether it should be included in the cull. So that's the answer. I know when I hunt something because I keep a very close eye on what I'm shooting. D. Fright Asm has asked, what are your favourite manufacturers of rifle scopes? If I could choose, the wish was my command, I would choose Zeiss. I think they're brilliant scopes. They make the best glass on the market. I use Zeiss binoculars. I'm not lucky enough to have a Zeiss scope yet, but I'm hoping to sort of save up for one if you like. I'd love one. But yeah, Zeiss, 100% the best glass going. Same chap has asked, what's the most challenging animal that you've ever tracked/stalked? So there's a thing in Africa called the Tiny 10, and I was in Mozambique working there as a volunteer. We stalked a Sunni, a Livingston Sunni, which is one of the smallest antelope in the world. And you go in, they live in the undergrowth of the forest, so you're basically on your hands and knees, crouching beneath the undergrowth, looking for sort of signs of them. And out there, because of the conservation purposes, we only shoot males. The females are obviously the next generation. They're the healthy ones you want to keep going. And you take the appropriate male. Unlike popular belief, we don't just walk in there and shoot anything we see. We take the right one. So to find the right Sunni, to find the right buck to take, I think it's a ram, actually a Sunni ram. I went in there, shot the right ram, but to get the right ram with a shotgun, to get close enough, because obviously so small you don't want to use a big rifle because it would take the animal apart. So use a shotgun to get close enough, because they're very wily. and to get the right shot. I think Asuni was probably the most challenging thing I've shot. And Caitlin Phelan 13 has asked, what way does all the quotas and how much trouble can you get in it you break them for the deer? Right, I can sort of translate that. Basically, there are no quotas in the UK. You set your own quotas. So the landowners will say, I want the deer gone, or I want to manage the deer properly, whatever. It depends what their interests are. So if they're running a forestry operation, they won't want many deer there, so they want them thinned out. Whereas if they're running a livestock operation, they wouldn't necessarily mind too much. So I think it's a bit of both. There's no quota as such, so you can't get any trouble for breaking them. But there are quotas in Africa, so you're given a quota by the government, certainly in Mozambique. And if you break them, you can get in a lot of trouble and be fined thousands of dollars. So don't break them. But here, absolutely fine. Crack on. As long as you're legal, as long as you're inside the seasons, you're more than happy. Charlie Baker has asked, I'm an aspiring keeper myself, and I just wondered, how long do you think hunting will last? Now, Charlie, I'd love to say indefinitely, but we all have the worry in the back of our mind that with awful individuals like Chris Packham, I mean, I don't know what he's playing at. He's using his government, he's using tax, he's paid by the taxpayers, in case anybody's wondering, because he works at the BBC. So not only is he using public money to boost his own agenda, which I think is disgraceful, but he's using it in terrible ways, in terrible manners, which he knows well enough that some of the stuff he's pushing is wrong. He's really going after grouse shooting at the moment. I think we were all given a bit of a kick up the arse last year when his terrible group of people managed to somehow briefly outlaw pigeon shooting through a technicality in the law of the general license, which we managed to sort out. But it should be fine as long as we all responsibly shoot, responsibly hunt, and nothing stupid goes on. So as long as we can manage those different things, we should be okay, and hunting will last for a long time. But I think the most at risk at the moment, because of people, awful individuals that just lie through the skin of their teeth, such as Chris Packham. He's a god-awful bloke, and lies a great deal. And hunting and shooting should continue on a very managed and very well, respectably run basis. So yeah, hopefully you should have a good career in as a gamekeeper. Bethan Fion X has asked, why do you think hunting is right? I personally don't agree, but I'm open to new opinions. Bethan, I've hunted my entire life. It's given me the ability to go out in the countryside, walk around areas which I've maybe been otherwise because of asking permissions from different farmers and different landowners. So that's the main one, is exercise, getting out in the countryside. Seeing more wildlife than I guarantee you will ever see. Wherever you're hunting, you will always see more when you're hunting because you're just being quiet, you're looking for things. And you're not going out and shooting every single thing you see. You're only shooting the odd animal that you want to actually take, so it's a great opportunity to see the countryside, to see the wildlife, which you might find ironic, but is the case. And then of course, for me, when you look at something like a pheasant shoot, 20, 30 bird day, when you're going out shooting wild birds, and vermin day or woodcock day, you're having the best fun with close mates. You're having a couple of drinks, you're having a bit of food. You might go out and walk around and shoot a couple of pheasants, but for me, it's all about the day. It's about the occasion. You might shoot for a few hours and then go home and have a big lunch or a big dinner. So it's a social thing as well, which is not penned into the rich and famous. Like I keep on saying, it's not just for the rich and famous, it's for everybody, because money really doesn't matter when it comes to shooting. The time shooting I enjoy anyway. Anyway, while we're here, I thought I'd take you through some of the kit that I've been very kindly given by a couple of guys who are brilliant, and they should be followed. And if you're looking for a new knife, I've been using this guy for about a week now, and it's amazing. Comes in this bespoke leather-made sheath. Obviously got it's Danum blades, that's D-A-N-U-M. The chap there you want to be talking to is Alan. He's an absolute legend, and he made this guy for me. It's the Fallow Stalker. As you can see, it's a gorgeous knife. It's got the Danum blades emblem just here, and that is amazing, to be honest with you. That's really the sort of thing that you want to. I'm not going to actually even explain to you how sharp that is, but you can imagine it's pretty razor, because it's come straight off the workshop. And I'm very excited to be using this. And like I said, it comes in the most gorgeous sheath, made again by Danum, but I cannot recommend them enough. Their link is in the bio, go check them out. He also sent me the skeleton skinner as well, which again is just a smaller blade for tasks which maybe need a smaller knife. So whether it's just getting in amongst the rib cage or skinning certain areas, but again, lovely little skeleton blade, beautiful bevel, and really is the perfect blade. Moving forward to some other gear, once I've shot a deer, obviously once you've grellicked it, or when you're grellicking it, if you're in the middle of an area where you'd rather have it up, we'd rather sling it up, as opposed to using all that upper body strength to get it up on the tree. BD Stalking created the most incredible bit of kit to get it up there. It's the Stalkers Assist. Comes in packs like this, and this basically is a piece of rope with a winch handle here that pulls up. It's a 2-4 winch handle, so it'll take all the pressure out of it and then pull it up for you. So you're just putting a rope. There's no real weight to it because it's balanced out through the winch, and it will get a red. The weight limit is about 120 kilos. Might be slightly less, but about 110, 120 kilos. But yeah, any normal sized, fallow, row easy. Obviously muntjac, you don't really need to do it, but row and fallow, bang on, and even a normal size, pretty regular size red. Get them up the tree. Suspended gralloch, job done. We all know the suspended gralloch is the best practice, and it's much easier. It saves the sort of digging around on the floor, and also involves bleeding the animal is much easier because it's suspended as well. So highly recommended. BD Stalking, also link in the description. Those two guys are bang on who you should be using for your stalking and blade needs. So please go and give them a look. Moving forward to more practical things, obviously guns, glass. At the moment, like I said, Zeiss is my favorite glass. I'm lucky enough to have a pair of Zeiss binoculars, the Zeiss Terra EDs. They're pretty decent binoculars. I do love sort of when my mates use them, they sort of always think, God, these are clear. But it's not just the clarity of them, it's the light retention they have. So really low level light when you're stalking in the evenings or in the mornings. The Zeiss just brings in all the light it possibly can into your goggles, and you will see them pretty much anywhere. I mean, my scopes aren't great, but when I got the binos on them, I can really tell what's going on. So I cannot recommend them enough. Zeiss Terra EDs, get in and check them out. Gun-wise, what I'm using, before any of you complain, the bolt is not in this gun, so it's completely and totally inane and inanimate. This is what I'm using at the moment. It's a Browning X bolt. It's brilliant. I really enjoy it. I bought it about 3 years ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's when I was younger, so I was I'm obviously always paying for all my own rifles moving up through school and uni, so I didn't obviously have the money to buy the best scope. But I bought the sort of a box standard scope at Boris E1 full field, God knows, I just asked for something that would work, and it does the job perfectly. I'm not a scope snob, and as a result, obviously I'm hoping to upgrade my scopes moving forwards, but for the moment these do the job well. But the Browning as a gun is brilliant. It's really smooth bolt. What's an X bolt? I suppose it's in the name. Really lovely trigger, much better trigger than my Savage 243, which is a bit of a donkey, but was my first rifle. But this gun is brilliant. I use almost all my deer, and I recommend it highly. Shoots well out to sort of 350, and then obviously, well, that's my scope's capacity really. Anything, I'm sure it would go better out to longer, but that's what I'm using for my ground here, and sometimes up in Scotland. But really recommend it. And I'm using a Nielsen Sonic moderator, so recommend the Browning X bolt if you're looking for 308 in the market, but I'm sure they do it great across all calibers. This is my 243, it's what I use for fox and roe, and then obviously the odd muntjac that I go up and shoot. But this is I've had it since I got my firearms license. I got this bad boy. No real qualms with it, other than sometimes it's an old gun, but sometimes the spring in the bolt will, if you quickly reload, which obviously you are doing when you're stalking, then the big spring might sometimes kick out, and you have to push the spring back in, which isn't ideal. It's a very simple, but it's quite stiff. Other than that, the gun's good. This trigger, when I bought it, was very stiff. I mean, you literally felt like you were pulling a flipping cannon. I don't even know what. It was almost dangerously stiff. So I took the trigger mechanism apart and trimmed down the springs slightly. Still quite stiff, and I could probably go another couple of loops round, but it did help me a bit. Because on the Browning, like I said, the trigger is so pure that it's such a good pull, whereas this thing really is pretty rubbish. Yeah, I don't recommend it. Amazingly, I'd say avoid this gun. Actually, it was my first buy, so it was more on the cheaper end of the options. But if you're going to choose a 243 or a 308 or anything in that sort of caliber range for deer in the UK, you can't go far wrong other than a Browning. So I'd probably stick to what I have there in the X bolt. And there are other Brownings on the market which I'm hoping to in the future explore. This is my gun, and I've got a pretty standard strap on it, and then obviously these Bipods are good. I'm not sure, I can't remember the name of them, but they obviously got the retractable, as you can see there. He says, yeah, the retractable legs, which is fantastic for any time you can have them down. I often hold the gun like this when I'm stalking with it, get my sort of finger in there. It sort of gets me a real good feel for the gun. If you suddenly have to shoot, on top, you can use that. You can really push that. You push that out, and then it's almost like a thing in itself. People have been criticising me for not using sticks. I don't need to use sticks, guys. I've always shot pretty well from my feet, from my knees, from seated. I'm quite a big guy, quite strong, so I can hold a rifle pretty straight, probably out to 100 yards. I wouldn't recommend, it's not best practice, but I've only ever done it. I've shot normally anything inside 50 yards, I'll shoot from standing, if you like, without a rest. Anything over 50 yards, I'd normally try and find a rest. When you're shooting in this sort of area, carrying a pair of sticks around alongside the binoculars and the rifle, you know, and your knife, it just for me, having a pair of sticks just gets a bit, unless you've got a tracker with you. In Africa, they'll carry the sticks for you, but when you're on your own, I just find having a pair of sticks and you've got the binoculars kicking about, and so it's just much easier. Rifle, binoculars, knife, job done. And we'll take some persuading to change it. I might show you one more thing actually. My scent hound. Hey? He stinks. Right, spirit end of the video. The dog smells horrific, but they are outside so all the time, so I can't really blame them for rolling in. What have you been rolling in? What have you been rolling in? What have you been rolling in? That's the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, like and subscribe, and God, dog, you stink. Yeah, like and subscribe, and see you next time.